Welcome to the Medical Device Made Easy podcast. Here is Munir Al-Azouzi from easymedicaldevice.com. And today we will talk about software. So we had a lot of questions last month about software. Is my software a medical device? What is the classification of my software? I don't agree with you on the classification. I wanted to make it class 1, etc., etc. So a lot of things that are happening on that field, and software is really growing. We have a lot of applications on our mobiles now that are starting to do some healthcare. And the idea here is to try to clarify all this. And for that, I invited somebody from TÜV SÜD who is specialized in software and who is making maybe the assessment of that. So I welcome Dr. Abtin Rad from TÜV SÜD. So hi, Abtin, how are you?
Hi, Munir. I'm fine. How are you?
I'm doing good, really. Thank you. So thank you for being here. As I've said, we have a lot of clarification, maybe for people to understand all this thing about software. And we are going through many different topics. One of the most important topic is class 1 device, because it's something that people are not really understanding. And then we can maybe go through other topics like cybersecurity, like artificial intelligence, just to give more insight about what is really important in terms of this regulation. But before that, can we have a small introduction of yourself?
Yes, sure. So first of all, thank you for inviting me, Munir. It's a pleasure to talk with you. I actually know all your podcasts and enjoy them from time to time. Basically, a few weeks ago, I listened to one of your, the ones that you publish on YouTube channel. So anyway, it's a pleasure to be here. I'm Abtin Rad. I'm responsible at TÜV SÜD for the topics artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and functional safety in medical devices. And whenever you talk about these 3 topics, you have somehow software incorporated into it. And I'm leading this topic from the focus team or global perspective. Well, background, actually, I have started as a mechanical engineer. Not mechanical engineer, but I started as a mechanical engineer and developed ultrasound surgical instruments, and moved then to electronic components and developed high voltage generators. And somehow I always loved software and programs beside of that. And then I moved, the majority of my professional experience as a software developer and data analyst at different medical device companies. And somehow in between, I changed to the dark side of the table and moved from the developer to the notified body, and actually now, responsible for the compliance of a medical device manufacturer according to European regulations.
No, I think it's great. I mean, I would never say it's a dark side, but I understand your point here. So related to that, so as I said, we talk a lot now about software, mobile application, SAMD, all those keywords are starting to pop up a lot within companies. We have a lot of startups now that are starting a project with a software application that are doing a lot of things. I mean, I'm getting calls every day about a new application, a new software, and they ask, is it a medical device? How can we make it a medical device, etc.? So I think this is something that will be growing a lot. So it's why I think we have also this MDR regulation that is now focusing more on this kind of software. But can we just make an explanation or clarification to people of what is a software as a medical device? What can we include in that? What can we maybe exclude if there is things that we can say, this is not a software as a medical device, even if you think it is, because we have a lot of assumptions here. So can you help us on that?
Yeah, sure. So basically, if you want, you have 3 layers of information you can get yourself. I think the highest one is, of course, the regulation. You have the medical device regulation, which explains to you what is a medical device, and it includes also software. And if you look at Article 2, I think it's 2, and then the first sub-rule, if I'm not wrong, explain to you what a medical device is. And according to that, a medical device, including software, is any device that point that provide information or influence a therapy or diagnosis or have a medical intended purpose. So that would be the layman or easy word description. If a software has a medical intended purpose, then it's a medical device. And if it's a software, then it's a medical device software. And then you need to go to itemize it a little bit more. So if you look into the MDCG guidance document for classification and qualification of medical device software, you have this a little bit more precise described, because with regulation, you always have a very general description, and you look into Article 2, and then you might not be able to qualify according to the information found in the regulation. And then you have the MDCG guidance document that intends to somehow harmonize the understanding of the MDR. And this MDCG guidance document, it's 2019-11, if I'm
exactly,
not wrong. They are described as actually there are three types of software. You have software that is incorporated or embedded in a medical device, and this software usually controls a medical device. So it does not have its own intended purpose. Those software usually are either covered by the device they are controlling, and they usually are classified according to the medical device hardware or as an accessory. And those are not covered as a medical device software.
Yeah.
And then you have the two other classes, not classes, but sub-items. You have software that controls the medical device, at the same time also having its own intended purpose. For instance, such a software could be a software that controls an insulin pump, but at the same time also calculates the necessary bolus. Right? That would be typically a medical device software which has its own intended purpose, which is calculating the necessary bolus for insulin, and at the same time controls the hardware. This is a complicated one, because you have hardware, you have the medical device software, you have Rule 11 applied to it, you have also implementing rule, and so this is a complicated one. And then you have the easy one. I guess this is the one that is very often found in the market. These are the typical standalone software which only have a own intended purpose and do not influence any other device. Typically, such a software could be, for instance, software for identifying abnormal tissue in an ultrasound image. That would be typically software as a medical device, has only its own intended purpose, but does not control a device.
So in that we have, I have, as I've said, receiving a lot of type of software. And for example, we have some software that are the ones that we are using for fitness, the one that we are using to measure our heartbeat, the one that we are using to measure the number of steps that we are doing, those kind of things. So can we consider those software as a medical device software, because they are trying to help us to be healthier, they are trying to help us to be in a better shape, etc.?
Well, it strongly depends. Well, that question you asked is quite clear, no, but it strongly depends, of course, on the intended purpose. So if you have, for instance, a watch that measures your heart rate, and the intended use description of the device says, well, that's only used for fitness purpose or for your own knowledge without taking any therapeutic information out of it, well, that's not. But you always has to consider foreseeable misuse as well in that case. So you have to ensure that everyone understands what the intended use is, and it should be obvious to the end user who are using it. But if you have a fitness device which calculates your heart rate or measures your heart rate, at the same time provides you a therapeutic or diagnostic information out of it, that's definitely falls within the definition of the medical device and must undergo the respective requirements defined in MDR. So, for instance, an Apple Watch, for instance, or the Fitbit watch, which are classified as medical device software, do provide information on not sure. I don't own one, but if I'm not wrong, they calculate the risk for RT I do only
some health
know
failure. Yeah, I know the Apple Watch has a specifically an application or an algorithm that will detect a certain pattern on your heartbeat that will define if you have a specific heart failure. So they are qualifying that for that, yeah, specifically. So these are things that are important because there are some people that are using those Apple Watch and this and that. And as you said, it depends on what is the intended purpose. If it's targeted for a normal wellness activities or whatever information, then this is not a medical device. But as soon as you are trying to target a disease, a disability, or something that you are trying to support, then it is a medical device. We have within the MDR transition period, or within this creation of the regulation, we had this first instance where all class 1 device had to move to the MDR by the 26th of May 2020, then 2021 because of the pandemic. Then we have a corrigendum said no, for those devices that are up classified, if you are class 1, that you are up classified, then you can wait until the 26th of May 2024. So there are also here some misunderstanding in terms of that. So there are some people that have developed a device, but they didn't put it on the market specifically before the date of application. They put it on the market just after, and they say, oh, I'm still class 1 and I need to benefit from this transition period until 2021 because I'm class 1, but up classified with the MDR. So can you just try to clarify here if this is working or if it's not working?
So I don't want to say something wrong. I hope I will check it and will let you know. Maybe you can include it into your podcast later on. But the date for using this transition time, you must have placed the device on the market already before the end of the transition time. So put it in afterwards does not apply. Okay. So the software must be, or this medical device software must be already on the market before the transition time ends. So if you do it afterwards, that's not going to count as taking care of this transition time. But I will let you know one more time. Because
I think you're right. I mean, I have the same understanding. But then, what is the kind of explanation, or what is the clarification in terms of placing on the market? So I have a declaration of conformity that I'm signing before the date of application, but I never place my device on the hand of any user. So is it fine to say that I'm placing that device on the market?
Well, for this, the regulation have an explicit definition on placing off the market. And according to MDR, placing on the market means the first making available of the device to the market, of course, not investigational devices. And there the regulation is pretty clear. If you put it into the App Store, for instance, it's an app that you can download. If you provide it to the market, so they have actually the possibility to download it, then it's already placing on the market. But just signing the declaration of conformity does not make it being on the market on the same time. You do have also the other definition for putting into service. That's the time where the final user is ready to using it. So install it on a device and then being able to use it. But there they're referring explicitly to placing on the market. So this is the time that counts for you.
So are you, I mean, as a notified body, are you verifying also this in case people are saying, oh, yes, we are still class 1 under MDD, when maybe they are not in reality? So is there some investigation, or is it something that you just wait for the manufacturer to give you the information?
So basically, vigilance activities are performed by the competent authorities, so the regulators themselves. This is not a task that we do. We do not have the mandate to check class 1 medical devices, or including software. So this is basically the manufacturer's decision. So they do the safe declaration, and there is enough trust from everyone's side that they do it correctly. So, and as far as I know from the market, they do it actually quite good. So there is no reason to not believe their assessment. So,
yeah, no, I think you're right in the terms that notified bodies, as you are not appointed for a certain manufacturer, you will not make the evaluation, but it's the competent authority that has to do this check. Okay, great. So now let's maybe move quickly to the classification of this whole thing, because before with the MDD, mainly 90%, if I can say, of the software were class 1. And now with the MDR, we have class 2A, class 2B, class 3, and a small line at the end saying if it's not class 2A, 2B, or 3, then it is class 1. So this is mainly what is mentioned. So here, how can we help the people to understand, if I can say, first, can we have a class 1 device in that way to stay? We were class 1 before and we still remain class 1. So is there a chance, if I can say, to still have some class 1 devices under the MDR for software?
So to answer quickly, yes, of course, because the regulation gives the possibility. So if it comes to medical device software with own intended purpose, you always defer to Rule 11. So this is a new rule in the MDR, which was not there before. Basically, with all the active medical device rules, Rule 9, 10, 12, all these rules are somehow evaluating what kind of energy is inputted to your body or substance, and based on the risk of this exchange of energy, you identify an active medical device risk class. And all the other one was then class 1. And for this reason, many of the software components, which usually do not have direct a risk to the patient or direct risk on the energy applied to the patient, they do fall under class 1. To cover this missing information, the regulators have come with Rule 11, and Rule 11 covers medical device software standalone, which usually do not have a direct risk associated with exchange of energy or substance, etc. So on. And this Rule 11 basically can be itemized in 3 sub-rules. So basically you have the Rule 1, so the Rule A, Rule 11A, it tells you any device, any software that influences a therapy or diagnosis falls within class 2A. So just remember what was the definition. Every medical device software that influences diagnosis or therapy falls within class 2A. And if you go back to MDR Article 2, you see this is basically the definition of a medical device software. And by this since you have the definition of medical device software, Article 2, found in Sub-Rule A, actually any medical device software must start with class 2A. Again, this is not my opinion. This is basically a repetition what the regulators are saying. And this is not this is sometimes misunderstanding what the notified bodies are coming up with. Well, we identify that, but no, it's basically the definition. However, the sub-rule C, so I will come to the second one later on, then you have the sub-rule C, which states any other device is class 1. And the question is, what are those other medical device software that could fall into class 1 without influencing a therapy or diagnosis? So basically, any medical device somehow influences a therapy or diagnosis. And the only device that you even can think about falling within class 1 would the one that you have stated, Munir, is the contraception. No, it's not a contraception. It's basically the cycle calculation. And the reason why this falls in class 1 is because being pregnant is not being sick. It's actually a positive incidence. You want to calculate when your cycle is in a phase that you can get pregnant. So for this reason, this can be class 1 medical device software. Why? Because it doesn't influence a therapy and diagnosis. And the reason why even that falls as a medical device, because Article 2 states anything that influence a therapy or diagnosis is a medical device. However, contraception apps are medical devices and disinfection are medical devices. For this reason, cycle calculation apps fall in medical device definition. And
it's true that when we look at this MDCG guidance with the software where this example was mentioned, there was no other example. So did you have the chance maybe to get other examples of class 1 devices that maybe we can disclose here?
Honestly, I can't even think about anyone, although I wish that would be the case, because you do have a lot of very low risk medical device software that well, that's only my opinion. This is not TÜV SÜD opinion.
Yeah.
Might not undergo such a strict control that is necessary for Class 2A devices. So I have also had a discussion with some of my friends who work at BfArM, and they couldn't also name me any example, because we always end up with medical device or not a medical device. If it's a medical device, it somehow influences the therapy or diagnosis, but this falls in the Class 1, and anything else is not a medical device if it does not influence the therapy or diagnosis.
So this is, I think, important, to just inform people that 99% of your device that are software mainly are Class 2A as a minimum. There is maybe small exceptions that we can argue with Class 1, but apparently from what your research, from the MDCG guidance, where there is only one example, which was not like something that everybody are developing, there is really little occurrence that this can be a medical device. There is also some companies, some startups that are developing some kind of applications which are called some kind of diary. So it's mainly that I am measuring my temperature, I put that in the application. I am measuring my weight, I put that in the application, and then this information can go to my physician so that he has a view of, if I can say, my progress or my situation, etc., etc. So can we consider first those as a medical device? And is this falling, for example, like on a Class 1?
So basically, if so, the guidance and also the borderline classification document, which are currently still under MDD, not MDR, but the new one is hopefully coming very soon. So basically, any medical device software that only uses or is intended, proposed, is to digitize a written medical record into a digital world, but it's not a medical device because it does not have an intended purpose of being medical device. So, for instance, electronic patient records are not a medical device. This is also found in the guidance documents. However, there are cases or modules within that software that makes it a medical device. For instance, if you have a medication module which only records the medicines you have been taken, that is a medical device because it's found in a guidance borderline case document, and also is a decision made, if I'm not wrong, by a German court where they decide, well, it is a medical device, or even if it's just recording the medication you have taken. So again, if it's just recording patient health information, it's not a medical device, because if the manufacturer said it's only records, but you cannot perform any therapy based on the information provided there. If there is a change of for instance, you record the temperature values and then you create a graph out of it, the change of the representation of the information, then it's and you can perform a diagnosis based on the information that is displayed to you, then it's a medical device. Another example would be typically PACS system. So if you have a picture archiving system, well, storing information in a PACS makes it not a medical device. However, if the doctor have a viewer in it, and this viewer is used for diagnosis purpose, and it's written in intended purpose, then it's a medical device. And if you are in the worst case, you might also inherit, according to Rule 3.5, or 3.3, if I'm not the implementing rule, then you are Class 2B if it's a X-ray device. So it's case-by-case definition. However, as you have explained, either they are not a medical device because they record only, or they are medical device, and unfortunately, again, they start with 2A.
No, I think it's exactly. I think you summarized it very well in the fact that you can have a device and it depends exactly what it is used for. If it's for storing without changing the raw data, it's delivered. If the inputs are the same as the outputs without any change, then we are here not with the medical device. If the input is processed to create an output information that is helping for diagnosis or treatment, then it is a medical device, and then we are going on that thing. So I think it's really important to clarify that for the people there, so that they have really an understanding of what can be or what cannot be a medical device. Did you have, if I can say, maybe within your audits, some conflicts with some manufacturers because of these new rules to say, no, this is class 2A, no, this is class 2B, no, this is class 3, etc.?
Honestly, I have discussions, and usually the notified body is not making the decision at the end of the time. So the manufacturer is the expert. They usually know the software better than anyone else, better than the regulators, better than notified bodies, and they make this decision. And usually, from my experience, so I still do, although I'm changing role, but still do a lot of audits, and I didn't experience any disagreement with the client. However, if there is such a case that with a disagreement, then it's well, in Germany it would be the Landesbehörde, but the competent authorities' decision to decide on the final classification. And up until now, we didn't have this agreement with the manufacturer. Usually, as I told you before, they're actually doing a great job when it comes to implementing and understanding and performing the requirements of the new regulation. This is
I think there is Article 52 of the MDR now that is managing this kind of conflict that is happening with manufacturers and with notified bodies. So you're right. Let's move to another topic now, because I think it's also important. It's about cybersecurity. So because now of these growing numbers of applications, of software, of this that are connected to computers, etc., there is this risk of cybersecurity, and there is some MDCG guidance also that are existing now on cybersecurity. So what a notified body will check about that? So are you also having some kind of hacker skills, if I can say, to understand how some kind of documents are written and that they are well written, etc., related to cybersecurity? So what are you checking for that?
So yes, so if you allow me to add a little bit more back information into it. So we do. So the reason why the EU regulators have come with the cybersecurity requirements are basically of three nature. First of all, we have a even without Corona, we have a strong push into the digitization of the healthcare sector. And you do see a lot of software incorporated into the medical device without being necessary for the function of the device. However, they improve the healthcare, the performance of the medical device or the whole system. So you have the digitization push based on different sources, and those sources are the general digitization approach to be more precise, more performant, clinical performance, etc. So on. You do have the Corona crisis, it makes digitization even more necessary. And the second one is we have a huge push, especially in Europe right now, with France, UK, Germany pushing into the health apps. So those health apps are in some cases considered medical devices. And in Germany, they must be medical devices at minimum class 1, which is again that question, which could be class 1. Yeah. However, they can be class 1 or 2, so they must be medical devices. And those medical device or apps, health apps, are paid by the insurance companies. And once you have this payment from insurance companies, you have a huge increase of number of medical software devices in the market. So this is a second push. And unfortunately, as we have seen from the past, well, please, I will explain later on. Don't misunderstand. Okay. It's not. So we see, at least for the last 2 years, we see an increased number of hacks. And unfortunately, if you just look for this year, approximately from 6, 7, 8 big hacks that happens in the last 6, 7 months, I think 90% of them was targeting the medical device industry. So, and if you go even more back in the past, you do have the ransomware attack with WannaCry, Petya, and non-Petya, which actually only targeted the medical industry and banking sector, where you have more money, wasn't really attacked. And they were not attacked because they was not vulnerable to such a system. And then some media started then to complain, well, it's ironic that the medical devices and health of patients are not so important, like money or banks are not attacked, but medical devices are attacked because they were vulnerable, which is not fair to state, because actually the manufacturers are doing a great job. However, we have a very strong regulated environment we are working on. So the pace of changing operation systems in a medical device cannot be done so quickly. And so just to add why I'm trying to do it that way. So again, and so one day the regulators had identified, well, cybersecurity in medical devices are an issue, so we need to include it into the regulation, and forcing then the manufacturers to do something. And they come up with a regulation which have MDD has nothing for cybersecurity defined, well, only indirect somewhere in the clinical aspects in Annex 9, I think, or 10. And MDR already lists 6 cybersecurity requirements in 70.4, I think 70.1. You have 18 and 23 point something, where you have to list the cybersecurity residual risk in instruction for use. And then, well, that's again regulations. They usually are not so precise, so manufacturers really don't know what they should do. Then the MDCG come up with the MDCG guidance document, which is not bad, however, still lacking how to implement, how to be compliant. This is really missing there. What they explain in the MCG guidance, you have to perform risk management, so cybersecurity risk management. The nice thing is they don't force manufacturers to perform a separate risk management. They say, well, actually, you can implement it within your conventional risk management process, and you just need to add for each of the steps within your risk management, risk analysis, risk evaluation, mitigation, etc., and appropriate cybersecurity risk mitigation measure. And the reason why medical devices are a little bit different is because, and so you cannot take industrial approach into the medical device sector, because in medical you have the safety as being the most important aspect of the device. For instance, if you have a defibrillator and you attach it to a person and you want to shock him, the device says, well, you need to first authenticate yourself that you're allowed to do that. Well, just password is not enough. You need a 2-factor authentication. So I send you an SMS. Until you save the patient health records of the device, the patient already died. So that makes no sense. For this reason, you need to have this additional risk management for cybersecurity in conjunction or in cooperation with a secure safety risk management process. And what the MDCG guidance also requires you to do is not only performing mitigation, so fixing mistakes is not enough. You have to have a security life cycle. So as you have a software life cycle to create a safe medical device, so you cannot just check a software at the end of production like you can do with a hardware medical device and say, well, my software is safe, because it's not possible. Software has inherently software errors which cannot be found by just testing. You have the same with cybersecurity. So by just doing pen testing and vulnerability scanning, you might find current issues, but not for the future. And as in addition to that, you might not find all the security issues in the software. So you have to additionally have a secure life cycle process implemented in your medical device, software lifecycle process, which is basically also not so difficult. You basically can use your current software lifecycle process and just add to each of the steps a risk management steps. For instance, you do develop software and you identify in a maintenance process there is an issue with the securities, and you just perform threat modeling. Based on your threat modeling, you do a risk management, and then you go back and put that information in your software lifecycle process.
So is this also something that you can use maybe a third-party company like HackMe, and if you can, like this kind of thing?
Of course. So basically, we do it as a notified body. Of course, we do pen tests. So we have hackers in-house who do hack software. We are supposed to perform unannounced testing. And as part of this, we do also do pen testing on medical devices where we identify they might have security issues. And also, you're also perfectly fine to go to many other pen testing labs. There are not many considering the healthcare sector. And as I told you, for healthcare sector, it's really a different approach when it comes to security. But you do have a lot of other companies where you can go and let them test your software for security. However, the secure lifecycle process must be implemented process-wise in your company, cannot be tested. This is actually audited by us.
Okay. No, I think it's really great, good information here, because I think then just for the startups that are developing those kind of software, just to be sure that your cybersecurity part is following the rules, that notified bodies are qualified and also have the skills and the people to do those tests and to verify that that your software is secure and is fine. So it's something that's really, really interesting here. Is there any guidance that they have, not guidance, but standards like ISO standard that they have maybe to follow, which is good, if I can say, related to this medical device sector?
Yes, actually, they are. As I told you, the MDCG guidance is quite good, very good, actually, but don't really tell you how to be compliant. So there are no technical requirements there. And fortunately, we do have standards. So the first one has been published in February this year, if I'm not wrong. This is the IEC TR. It's a technical report, unfortunately. Okay. However, it's really a good standard. I tell you why. 6601-4-5, which usually the 6601 series of standards are only for devices, hardware devices, but this also include medical device software. And actually, it's a quite pragmatic standard and gives the manufacturer a lot of room how to implement cybersecurity. Having a standard that is too regressive by allowing something and not allowing something is not good, because at the end of the day, manufacturers, the expert, they know where to implement. However, they need a way how to show compliance, and 6601-4-5 is actually a good standard to implement. This is only for a product testing, and I hope somewhere next month or in next 2 months we will have the 81001-5-1, which explain to you how to implement a security lifecycle in your medical device. And so these are the two main standards for medical devices.
Great. No, I think it's important to mention that, because people are maybe relying just on the MDCG and then they don't have, if I can say, all the tools. So if, for example, they show compliance to these standards, then maybe the notified body will say, okay, then they have really a good understanding of what needs to be done there.
Correct. So if you are, again, standards are not a must. They are a way to show compliance to the requirements. If you use it, then usually compliance is presumed. So you do perform spot checks, but that's not a must. I always tell it to my customers when I discuss with them. This is maybe afraid of manufacturer, which is not really necessary, because they do actually quite a good job. And if you, for instance, use Microsoft SDL, which is basically a secure lifecycle practice being on the market for, I don't know, 10, 15 years, it's a good way too. So you don't need to go to the standard approach. You just need to justify why you have this approach. And usually if you do 81001-5-1, or if you go a Microsoft SDL, there are not much differences there. And it's up to you to decide which way you go. And if you have a Windows operation system, is very often used in the medical field. If you go the Microsoft SDL route because you have learned it, why not using it? It's not a must to go standard route.
No, I think it's good. So thank you for this clarification. I wanted to go to a last topic, because we discussed about that just before starting this episode. So it's mainly about artificial intelligence. We talked about a new artificial intelligence regulation that was coming out. So can you help us more to understand what is new with that, and what will this change for the manufacturers that are developing some software which contains some artificial intelligence inside?
Yeah. So basically, so what we see as a notified body is the number of AI algorithm medical devices are increasing rapidly. If you just run a PubMed printout of how many publications for medical devices are with AI, so basically we see exactly a exponential increase, and FDA has published information regarding AI in their assessment. So basically they have 160 devices up until now certified as a AI standalone software for medical purpose, and out of this 160, I think 90 was just last year. Okay. So there is a really strong increase of AI medical devices. And the EU has come up with a draft regulation. So that was published, I think, 1 month, 2 months ago, somewhere in April, May. And the draft regulation is in a draft status as of now. However, they do have some precise requirements. And basically, that's a horizontal regulation covering all the critical sectors. And they say there are several risk classes, unacceptable risks, such as the one social scoring of human beings by governments or unacceptable risks are not allowed in EU. And then you have the high-risk devices, and medical devices fall within that high-risk definition. And what does it mean for you? So as a manufacturer, you have, and this is unfortunately not really clear, but if it's come that way, it might be a little bit difficult for manufacturers. And the effect we have to see, they say that those devices must undergo a separate conformity assessment procedure. Okay. So that means if you have an AI system, you have to run to a conformity assessment procedure with a notified body assessment, with technical documentation, with a certificate at the end being published or created for your product. However, they say that if there are parallel conformity assessment procedures like MDR, they name it explicitly, they might be overlapped. So our assumption is that you will undergo MDR conformity assessment procedure plus some AI regulation extras. We have to see how the regulators will decide on that one, but currently it looks like that. In additionally, there is a requirement to write a technical file, so you need to have a second technical file. I hope the regulators will also here ensure that that technical file is identical to the one found in the conformity assessment according to MDR. So hopefully that will be not there. However, what seems to be really redundant or double work for the manufacturers is regarding the listing in a database. We don't know which database it is, so you need to publish your software in a database. Is it OIDAMID? Who knows? It's not clear yet, or at least I didn't read it out yet. Yeah. And you also need to perform post-market vigilance information provided to the regulators, and this seems to be a parallel path to the one we have implemented under MDR anyway. Hopefully they will decide on that one as well. There are some, let me put it, there's strange requirements in the regulation, which makes it very difficult for manufacturers to comply, because they are requiring you to have, for instance, as there are many, but let me quickly, as time is going, some of them, there's a requirement, for instance, for error-free data, which makes no sense, because every sensor does have a limited precision, and you cannot create unlimited precision to perform or to provide error-free data. So those requirements might be misunderstood by me or by other people who read this document, so we have to see. And in addition to that, there is also a requirement that the notified bodies must be notified according to AI regulation. And we don't know yet if this notification must be performed under AI regulation or MDR is enough. If they want a separate notification of the notified bodies, that would mean we have even reduced number of notified bodies, which are less right now anyway. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But we are currently preparing to be compliant with the requirements, and hopefully TÜV SÜD will be one of the first to be to at least comply. If they notify us or not, that's the regulator's decision. And the same, I strongly suggest to the manufacturer, please read through the AI regulation, voice your concerns. That's very important. And third thing is, don't do the same as with MDR just 1 year before the transition. Some, not all, of course, actually many of them do a great job, but some just wait until the end, and then it comes, oh, holy crap, now we have to comply with a lot of requirements, which is difficult to implement within this short time. The transition time, according to what I understand from the regulations, seem to be 24 months. So if the regulation is published in Official Journal, it comes in place in 24 months. And they explicitly explain that some requirements might apply already from day one. So
So a good warning here. So thank you for that. I will try to place the draft regulation on the show notes so that people can look at that and try to voice, if I can say, their concerns about it. Good also to know that maybe TÜV SÜD will be qualified for that. So if another notified body is not qualified for that, it means that they will have maybe to hire 2 notified bodies for the same thing, or no?
It looks like the way. We don't know yet. So hopefully this notification is covered by MDR. We don't know yet. We have to wait what the regulators decide. Okay. If they decide we need a separate notification, we have to do it. And if that notified body does not have it, then you have to include another one. And this is maybe you are bringing a perfect point, Munir. That's actually a very good point. That could mean, so from the regulation we did, that would allow a notified body doing the MDR part, and a notified body which has no clue about medical devices would cover the AI aspect, which makes not much sense in my opinion, because you need the medical understanding.
So as you said, we have maybe a lot of notified bodies now, but maybe some will be only specialized for AI tools or for software, because they have those double qualification to do MDR plus AI. But let's look at that when the publication will be done. But in the meantime, as I said, I will place the documents on the show notes, so please have a look at those. Abtin, I have a last question, because TÜV SÜD is hiring. We discussed that with our last episode with Martin Witte. So if I want to go to the dark side, as you mentioned, as somebody from manufacturing. So what are the qualifications that you are looking for an auditor, for a software auditor at TÜV SÜD?
So basically, we have very strict requirements regarding our authorization. So the competent authorities doesn't make it very easy for us. So you are audited once per year. We are basically audited every day. So we need actually the full bandwidth of software expert. We need a software tester. So you have software test expert. We need those people. We need software developers. We need the software regulatory expert. And then in addition to that, there is a training that we perform, which is quite extended, goes almost half year to 1 year, for making such a trainee to be able to perform the assessment we do. And we are really looking for software experts. If you are a software developer, software tester, if you're a cybersecurity expert, if you're a functional safety expert, if you're an AI expert, data analyst, please contact us. We are actually providing a good opportunity, and I still enjoy it. I'm still on the dark side, and I didn't change. So it was not my worst decision.
No, great. So if you want to go to the dark side, so don't hesitate to contact TÜV SÜD. So I will put all the details on the show notes also. I think it's important that maybe if you have experience in manufacturing, you can also have this experience with the notified bodies, which will be also helping you in your career also. So I think it's really important here. Okay, so thank you, Abtin, for all those information. I think it was really helpful. I hope it will open the debate, if I can say, on some of the topics that we discussed today, and will help also some manufacturers to understand what they have to follow to be compliant to the regulation. Okay, so I really thank you. I wish you a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.